So I watched OddTaxi today. I finished watching OddTaxi, and it was really good. It was really good. Or let me explain. Let me explain the plot. It's a story about animal people. So all the characters are different animals, and it's kind of like this murder mystery crime detective kind of thing, centered around this grumpy, stoic, I guess shy, like not really, maybe not shy, but like stoic, keeps himself grumpy taxi driver Walrus, and somehow through the events, or through his job of being a taxi driver, he interacts with all of these different characters. Yeah, you get this like many perspective narrative at the start that as the show goes on, collides and combines into this single cohesive story. And it's just really amazing seeing all the little parts come together, seeing how like no detail was wasted. You know, that this show felt like an exercise in Chekhov's gun, and there's a literal gun. It was like someone was like, hey, how far can we take this principle of, making sure that everything counts, and literally almost every single tiny thing in this show counts. Like background characters are not actually background characters 90% of the time. Random events you might ignore come back to influence the plot in, dramatic fashion. And I wouldn't say the foreshadowing, I wouldn't say it's subtle, but like in the sense, if you're looking for foreshadowing, it's pretty easy to pick up on. But it's also not heavy-handed. Like when something is foreshadowed, the show does a really good job of making you wonder, like, well, where is this going? Either maybe because you came in knowing that every small detail is important, or as you watch the show, you kind of realize naturally, like, or organically, that every small detail is important. I think you naturally kind of turn your brain on to noticing these details, and then that kind of builds an even stronger sense of suspense. I don't know what it was, but from the very first episode, I kind of knew what I was getting into, to be fair. But from that very first episode, just from the vibe alone, it felt like an indie kind of mystery game. I don't know why. I don't know if it was like the weird animal characters. I don't know if it was like the kind of like crispy dialogue. Like it was, I don't know exactly what it was, but I think even if you came into the show blind, I think there's a good chance you'd quickly pick up that, hey, this is a show where, that was like painstakingly crafted, where each piece of the puzzle was like very carefully placed in exactly the way the creators of the show wanted, like the studio wanted. I guess when I say that this show is like a zoo of the human experience, I mean that literally in the sense like, literally zoo animals, and I mean, that's why I thought of this, but also, I think no matter what kind of person you are, you will find characters to empathize with on a deep level. So for me, there is the monkey that is so starved and desperate for love, and so blind and optimistic, and that he will be taken advantage of. This isn't really spoiling much. There's the hippo, who clearly has like a narcissistic side and really is looking to get big on social media. But it's clear he doesn't really understand why he feels this desire. And you kind of follow this little hippo's adventure. Not adventure, but his journey, like his own character arc, starting with that kind of starting point. And of all these different, like these two separate, like the monkey and the hippo, they also have their own place in the grand scheme of things, the grand narrative. There is the idol who will do literally anything to get what she wants, who is so ambitious, so determined to not lose, she will do anything. And or will she do anything? Like how far will she really go? But again, another piece of the puzzle. And I think our main character, Odokawa, the walrus, is definitely relatable. Especially if you're an anime watcher, if you're an otaku, if you're somebody who uses anime as an escape, you can I think it's pretty easy to see parallels with this character, without spoiling anything. Kind of the way that he protects his sense of self, the way that he cares about his friends, but he's very careful about who kind of gets to go into that circle. So just all these characters, I think were absolutely wonderful. And the way that, within the span of 13 episodes, the number of well-explored characters, I think, I did a quick count. There's Odokawa, the main character, and I think 19 other characters do get a large share of the spotlight, and kind of share almost equal screen time, and yet each one feels well explored, important to the narrative. So just like this kind of perfect balancing act, and it's like to pinpoint accuracy, and it was just just an amazing show, just an amazing spectacle to see. So I think because each character was an animal instead of actually being like a human, that I was not biased ahead of time by their appearance onto what kind of character they'd be. Each different character I came into like with an open mind, with no presupposed, like with no assumptions about what they'd be, kind of like the opposite of like the moe genre, or just, use like a lot of anime kind of character design tropes that signify what the character is going to be like. For instance, obvious things like if somebody has an eye patch, they're a chunibyu. If somebody has glasses, they're going to do the fucking all according to Keikaku shit and push their glasses onto their face. Because they're animals, I really focused on their actions and how they spoke and what they said. I'm curious if the original concept was if they came up with the concept first of having the characters be animals, or if that was something like they came up with this grand narrative, and then at the end they're like, hey, what if we made them animals? And they're just like, yeah, fuck it, let's make them animals. I don't know. It felt pretty real. I'd say it felt pretty real, despite being a show about talking animals. The characters themselves felt extremely, extremely human. This is probably the most human characters out of any anime I've ever watched, probably. The dialogue themselves, in terms of the Japanese they're speaking, it just felt more natural. It felt more like just like native Japanese. Because a lot of times when you watch anime, they speak Japanese in a way that is not the way a person would normally talk in Japan, because it's a kid's show and they're saying shit like, I'm gonna kill you, or I'm gonna launch my Rasengan at you. They're shooting Kamehamehas at like aliens and shit or whatever, right? And they're trying to be more dramatic, or they're trying to play up the character by twisting their speech or dramatizing their speech. But here, even though my Japanese is very, very beginner, it felt like it just felt more natural. And something interesting that my mom noticed was like, she was like, hey, is that Chinese? Because there was a scene where Odokawa and Shirakawa were they were doing this like very snappy, quick like dialogue in the car, and my mom thought it felt very Chinese, almost like I'm not going to speak Chinese, but it felt very Chinese because just the speed they were talking and the kind of quips they were doing. And for me, I could almost not recognize it as Japanese. It felt so different when they're speaking at that kind of pace and using. There's just a lot of words. I completely new words I never even heard of. Even some words in English I didn't know, which was like, I was like, damn, bro, like they go hard on the vocabulary. You got a character that only talks in rap, and the rap is fucking good. You got these two comedian characters. You got this pig comedian and this donkey, and they did a comedy like 2-man manzai skit, and it was legitimately funny. I burst out laughing for like the skit, even though it was only like a 30-second skit. There's just so many things in this show. It just felt so. The show like also does a really good job of subverting expectations you have for characters. So they'll kind of set up a character a certain way or lead you to expect one thing, and then kind of not completely flip the character, but rather reveal a portion of the character that's still completely believable, but you wouldn't have expected, or it would have been very surprising if you expected it, because you didn't see any of the events that led up to it. So how could you expect? And there's so many different ways a character can go. I think this is a show that kind of puts on full display why anime. Why anime? Well, in anime you can really you can bring a story like this to life. Because imagine having trying to make this in an IRL way, like with real people. Like, are you gonna have them dressed in like furry costumes? Like, how is that gonna work? Having it in animation format and an art format, it really changes everything to like an abstraction. It makes everything so much more abstract and lets you focus on the essence of like what a character is, rather than focusing on like, details like the realistic fur or something, right? Stuff that is not really, I'd say, important to this story. And the art style here is very simple, very clean, but very simple as well. Nothing incredibly flashy. The animation was, look at the opening. It's fucking good. The opening is it's like modern art in motion. And the actual animation for the show, very clean, and it felt like it just felt like art. I don't know what to say. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying right now. I'm gonna end the video before this, turns like I don't know. This has already devolved into me saying random shit. Okay, good night. Bye bye. Oh fuck, I poked my lens. Oh god. Ugh.